Okay, wonderful students of YouTube. Welcome to another paraphrasing lesson. My name is Phil. I am the head trainer at One-to-One IELTS, and I am going to show you today another technique that you can add to your bag of tricks to help you when facing paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is an essential technique when you are writing the introduction of your task 2 essays. And the technique I'm going to show you today is really useful when the question statement is making comparisons. We're going to look at 2 examples today. If you want to see other paraphrasing techniques that I've come up with, up here in the top right of your screen, you should find a link to the playlist, which will have other videos I've done on paraphrasing. Let's get started. The first example that we are going to look at today is the following question statement. People nowadays tend to have children when they are older than they did in the past. Now we can see this is a comparison because it's got the word than. That always indicates that there is some comparison. The first idea or the first thing that is getting compared I've highlighted in red, and we'll notice that this is present tense. It says people nowadays. That's right now. People nowadays tend to have children. Okay, so it's talking about children when they are older than they did in the past. So we're comparing the present to the past. And we have a comparative adjective, and it's really important that we recognize our comparative adjective for this technique. So the first step that we want to do is swap our ideas and change the comparative adjective. Don't worry about synonyms yet. If you're one of those people who just looks at a paraphrase and is like, okay, I'm going to jump into this and just change every single word I see, this is not good paraphrasing. Okay, we have to change the sentence structure first. After we've changed the sentence structure, then we look for simple synonyms. So that's going to be the next step. Step 1. We see that we have swapped the ideas that we are comparing. So in the original question statement, the past was the end of the sentence. But now we see idea 2 and the past is at the beginning. To make this idea past, we've got to make sure that our verb tenses are also past. So you will see people in the past tended to have, not tend, children when they were. So again, we've got to change the verb to be to being past. Now, because we have swapped our ideas around, we are looking for the opposite of our comparative adjective. So for those of you who like grammatical language, we are looking for the antonym of our comparative adjective. So the antonym of older is younger. We keep the than where it is, and then we look at what was originally idea 1, which is the present tense. And you'll notice, again, we've had to change the verb to make sure it's in the present. Now we've changed the sentence structure a little bit. We move on to step 2, and this is looking for easy synonyms. Remember, we do not want to take any risks. We want to keep this super easy. If you know a word that you can change, 100% you change it. If you're not sure, don't change it. We've already changed the sentence structure a little bit, so we don't have to change every single word. Looking at these words here, the first one I come across is people. Now, I am 100% sure I have a really good synonym for people, which is simply individuals. In the past. Now, again, I am 100% sure that in the past can be replaced with previously. So I move on to my next word. Tended to. I think I can replace this with used to. Have children. For me, I'm not really sure of a way of paraphrasing have children. Children is a word that people make a lot of mistakes with when it comes to paraphrasing. So I will see people using the word kids instead of children, but kids is too informal, or maybe youngsters. Again, much too informal for academic writing. Sometimes people will change it for adolescents. But adolescents and children are different because adolescence is a particular point in childhood that wouldn't work. So I'm just going to leave have children the same. Looking at the next part, when they were, I'm going to keep the when they, I think that's fine. Were, we've already paraphrased because originally it was the present tense and now it's the past tense. So we can move on to younger. Well, younger we've already paraphrased because that's the opposite of older, which was in the original. Then they do, well, do, we've already changed the verb tense, so that's great, that's been paraphrased. And nowadays is an easy word to find a synonym for. We can change nowadays and turn it into these days. So you'll notice that I really didn't go through and change every word, just the words that were very easy to change. Now we move on to the final step, which is check meaning is the same. So we compare our new paraphrase, which is individuals previously used to have children when they were younger than they do these days. So does that mean the same as people nowadays tend to have children when they are older than they did in the past? Yep, everything there has exactly the same meaning. You'll notice we didn't take any risks. We really didn't have to change a lot of the words because we already changed the sentence structure. Here we have a paraphrase, which would be absolutely fine to start a Band 9 Task 2 essay with. To make sure you've got the idea, we're going to go through a second example. In our second question statement, it says people living in the 21st century have a better quality of life than people who lived in previous times. And we'll notice again, we are comparing the present with the past. So in the red, people living in the 21st century, well, that's now. And we're saying they have a better quality of life than, okay, so we've got the word than, and we know it's comparing. And we're comparing with people who lived in previous times. So we're comparing it with the past. And the comparative adjective that we want to look for here, and the one that we're going to change for the opposite word, or the antonym, is better. First step, we swap the ideas and change the comparative adjective. Again, don't worry about synonyms yet. We do that afterwards. So having changed these around, I wrote people who lived in previous times have a worse quality of life than people who live in the 21st century. You see, I haven't looked for any synonyms apart from changing the word better or worse and changing the order of my comparison. The first part of comparison is in the past now. So we've got to make sure that the verbs are both past tense. We can see worse is an antonym of better. And then the idea what was previously the first idea is now second idea. It is present tense, so we've got to make sure that the verb in there is present. So we swapped everything around. Now it's onto that synonym stage, but again, we're only looking for the easy ones. You might notice we have a word that we had in the previous one, comes up all the time, people. Once again, we know for sure we can change people for individuals who lived in previous times. Again, I'm very sure I can change this chunk of language. And we could simply just say, in the past. Had a worse, well, we've already changed that because originally it said better, so now it's worse, so that's okay. Quality of life, I know instead of quality of life, I can use the expression standard of living. Once again, we come across the word people. This time, to stop being a little bit repetitive, rather than saying individuals, I'm going to use a referencing word. My referencing word here is those. This is a much better word, especially when you're referring to people, than ones, which I see a lot of students make the mistake using. Now we've got the final part, which is who live in the 21st century. Well, I know that living in the 21st century is the same as saying these days. And the final step is to check the meaning is the same as the original. Here we can see our paraphrase is individuals in the past had a worse standard of living than those these days. Does our new paraphrase have the same meaning as our original question statement, which was people living in the 21st century have a better quality of life than people who lived in previous times? We'll notice that the meaning of both of these sentences is exactly the same. They have been very well paraphrased, and once again, we have a paraphrase that would be fit to start a Band 9 essay. If you found this lesson useful, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like the video. If you would like further help with your IELTS preparation, I provide one-to-one lessons, group lessons, essay corrections, and mock speaking tests. And you can find me at my Facebook study group with thousands of other students at facebook.com/groups/one-to-one IELTS. The link is also in the description of this video, or you can just email me directly at one-to-one-IELTS@gmail.com. Good luck to you all in your studies, and I'll catch you all in the next video.